Football Show, powered by EP Sports. EP Sports is the top supplier in the UK for all your American football needs, helping players and coaches reach their potential since 2007. Check them out at epsports.co.uk. Tonight, we are joined by British American Football Association Chief Executive, Pete Ackerley. Thank you so much for coming on again. It's great to see you.
Absolute pleasure, guys. Nice to be here.
Things have certainly changed since we last spoke in May.
Yeah, it's been pretty tough, to be fair. There's been a lot of changes, and I think where we were and where we thought we would be. I think we the great thing now is we've built this whole return to play process with a very specific end in mind, and that's been one of the really tough things about getting back to play, about having a long lead in and preparation, but also it's been one of the great things and I take this opportunity now just to thank everybody in our game out there, the coaches, the volunteers, the players, the officials, the people in the clubs who are helping organize this. It's not been easy. It's been really tough, and we've put some pretty onerous obligations, and I'm not apologizing for that, because they are the obligations we have to meet to be able to return to play this weekend. And it's one of those moments or days it's always felt a little bit just out of reach. We always were just getting there, and this weekend it's been it's been fabulous just to in the club again. I take my hat off to clubs and coaches and players to adhere to the guidance, to adhere to the obligations, to understand. We're very privileged. We're not subject to the usual, and we haven't been subject to the usual guidance that everybody else has in their normal everyday lives, because we're a sport and we're getting back to physical activity and play. So we've been given a very privileged situation, and thankfully we've now been able to get everybody back to that point where we can now play our sport. And it's I'm sure there'll be a few people quite emotional on Sunday, quite excited, quite pumped up, ready to play. And it's been one of those, just I don't want to go back to it's unprecedented, it's a global, it is what it is, and we've got to where we are, and that's been due to so many people within our game, volunteers who have given up. And when I say hours of their time to get us to where we are, I mean literally hours. From Warren Smart, Amanda McDonald, and each of the commission leads, from Kyle Taylor and Srini Saji in flag football, to get us to where we are. Our youth football has been a challenge. It's been a real challenge to get, because you add in the complexities of people wanting to play double headers. So you want the adult team and the under 19s to play on the same day. Our referees have been immense in terms of how they've been supporting us, supporting the clubs and teams. They've been to scrimmages, they've been to practices, they've been sharing how they're going to referee. In many ways, it's just brought the whole game together, and we all want to play, right? That's the bottom line. We all want to get on the field, we want to play. So I'll be getting to a game on Sunday at some point, hopefully. And I just, it's still a different season. It's still a hybrid season, and we can't get away from that. It's still not a normal. I hate that word, by the way. Now, normal. I'm just, but it's just getting back to just getting on a field. Let's play, and we're doing it amongst, unfortunately, a background of rising cases, challenging issues. We've still got some challenges in each of the home countries. Just whichever way we look at this, I'm still having to work this through. Scotland's different to England's different to Wales, and we're having to balance that across everything else we do. So again, I cannot thank our volunteers who work for us enough, but I can't also thank the clubs and teams out there who've appreciated what we've had to do, and they've been massively supportive in terms of, well, let's get a season on. Let's at least get a season on, and let's look at it differently. And that's what we've been able to do. Really, take this season as a very different season, but enabling us to play football, get on a field, review what we're doing, and hey, do you know what? There'll be some things that we do this year. We might go, do you know what? I've never thought of doing that before, and actually, that might be actually quite a good thing in the longer term. So, very much from my point of view, came on in October 19. Saw a GB game in October. Not seen any football since. So it's there's been there's been a bit of women's football that's been fun, and we've been able to see some of that actually, and for some of the guys, and girls out there, they haven't played, they haven't actually been on a field. So there's been some, I guess there's that whole thing about practice, and we've been able to gradually return people to play and gradually return the intensity, but nothing will ever replace a game. So I hope those bodies are ready on Sunday. I'm sure they are. But
I mean, talking to the players, like, they've been so good with kind of how they have to keep their discipline and kind of just keep it all together. And like you said, it's palpable that everyone's just wanted to get back on the field and start hitting people.
and I do really want. I can't. This is going to sound really condescending. It's not meant to, but just thank you, because it's not easy. Because the natural thing is we want to do what we've always done, and imposing the restrictions and the return to play protocols. Because it's not just once you get on a field you can do it. With the protocols before, when you arrive at practice, and now at a game, and what you can do or not do on the sidelines, they're pretty onerous. And we've issued some pretty long directives and said to people, like, this is what you're going to have to do if you want to play. This is what we're going to have to do. And that's where I really absolutely take my hat off to the game, to the players, and gone, okay, that's what we have to do. That's what we'll do. And we are where we are. We're back to be able to play. I guess,
as you said as well, you're at the mercy of different messages coming from different governments in different parts of the country as well.
Yeah, and it's a matter of getting those messages and translating them into different regions. And at some points during this, we were in different regions within, and we still are in, we're still in different regions within Scotland. What you can do in certain parts of Scotland, and it's we've got to measure all of that and get everybody back safely. And again, I don't make any apology. We've still got to get out there and be safe. We've still, this whole thing is bigger than the game. It's bigger than our sport. Let's just get back safely. Let's get back on a field, and we'll ultimately we will get there.
So what I was saying was, obviously we don't have Warren with us today, but so feel free if you can't talk about it too much. But kind of what were the main? We've talked about the governments, but with scheduling and realignment this year, what were the main troubles and difficulties you had?
I think the challenges were there were manyfold, but the challenges first and foremost was the risk assessment of each individual club and individual people were very different. Some people, I just want to play football. I want to play tomorrow, and I don't, that's what I want to do. And you've got the risk. Some people a bit more risk averse, and totally understandably why. They probably had challenges in their families. They've probably, quite a lot of our people working in the emergency services, so they're seeing things in a very different way than perhaps you and I are. So their level of risk, our perception of risk is very different. So we first and foremost had to, okay, we can say we're going to play first and foremost, but then we're going to have to return to play within 3 different home countries guidance, 70 odd different teams' perception of risk and what they were prepared to do, each and every individual player, what their views were. Then we had to be totally realistic, and I think this is where Warren has been immense, and I again can't thank him enough. It's okay, what are the real challenges for our clubs? Because clubs have not had any income for a number of months. if we just go into a national program, there's the costs and impact of bus hire, travel distances, the cost of travel, without doubt, within our sport, people have been challenged economically themselves in terms of their own personal circumstances. So before you even think about putting a schedule together, you've got to balance a whole range of challenges of who wants to play, who doesn't, how far do people actually want to travel and who doesn't, how competitive do you want the season to be? We haven't played for 18 months. Some people haven't been in the gym for a number of months. Yeah. So we've got to do all of those things to get back ready to play. And that's before you even then start to say, okay, so if we can do this, how many games can we play? Because then you, as we were building this through, and again, take my hat off to the authorities, whether it be BCMS or whether it be Sport England, Scotland or Sport Wales, their support has been huge to not just our governing body, but to a lot in terms of their guidance and their support of, you can do that, but you shouldn't be doing that. And and they've been really cognizant. And being essentially a contact combat sport, we were at a much higher risk than cricket or tennis or golf, for argument's sake. So we have to add in all the nuances. And I think one of the things that was huge at the start, what we were not prepared to do was compromise the integrity of the sport. We could have just gone, do you know what, we can play 5-a-side touch versions or 7-a-side touch version, and do you know what, we don't need to play. Now that's not our sport. Which has been, and again, this has been the huge thing for our sport in terms of flag. We've been able to get flag football back really a lot earlier. So that's been great for flag. It's one of our big priorities to grow the game. So that's been huge in terms of being able to bring a lot more flag teams together. But all of those factors that I've just talked about have then got to be put in the mix. And then if you start to go, we don't want to travel too far for economic reasons and cost reasons, and let's be frank, don't want to have huge amounts of people moving all over the country at any one time. We don't have a perfect storm in terms of all our Prem teams are in the same place or all our Div 1 teams are in the same place. So then you mix in different levels, which also I think it's actually a big opportunity that comes out of this whole thing. So some of our newer teams are now able to play some games. So our associate teams have been able to join in, and they can get some more football that they would have perhaps ordinarily not got. And then we've got some of those. Okay, so we've got some fairly strong teams playing against some, by their own admission, well, we're not a Div 1 team, we're a Div 2 team, and we now maybe have to play a Prem team. And we've tried to work that through. And again, absolutely taking my hat off to some of the head coaches have been working together. And this is the beauty of our sport and the community of British American football. Going, okay, so we know we're going to play your team. Yes, we're a Premier Division team, and we're going to be playing a Div 2 team. So we know you're a little bit more inexperienced than we are. But hey, this is what we can do together, and we can alter our roster accordingly. We can help you develop, and that's got to be good for our sport.
That's brilliant,
and that's. And within that, there's some great games. We've got, there are a couple of divisions where you've got, 4 Prem teams together, and that will be gun barrel, down the line. So they'll play, and that's great also. So it's just being able to create the regional conferences, but also understanding that mix of, quality and ability and what they actually want to achieve out the season. But if everybody gets to the end of the season and everyone's improved, everyone's learned something, everyone's developed, everyone's at a different place, and myself and the team have been able to get around and start to talk to everybody going, okay, so, and again, I've talked to this on the last time I was on, this is our long-term strategy for the game. We need to professionalize the game and inspire more people to play and play a part. What can we learn from this season to take that forward to next season and the year after and the year after that? So this is not straight, right, okay, 2022 as it was, flip the switch and see what happens. No, let's take this season and its learning, and we're going to be making some announcements this week, possibly maybe early next week. Some new support for the National Football League around organising and running the game. Some more areas of looking at developing the game. This is, in some ways, it's a big challenge, and I absolutely understand that. It's probably a challenge for a lot of teams and clubs and head coaches and GMs. But it's also a massive opportunity to develop the game in a different way. And what can we learn from this? And probably one of those things that in years gone by, these are the opportunities that come along. You go, we'll never get an opportunity to try X or Y or Z. Actually, we're able to have a look at that. And one of the biggest things, and anybody listening to the podcast tonight, is we're in listening mode. What are the things that you like about what we're doing this year? What are the things, that we don't like that? And what else can we learn from that? What else could we do?
It's a bit of a case of like necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you're going to be bringing all this new stuff that you've had to do, and some of it's going to stick.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And some of it will just not stick, and I understand that. And I'm not naive to think anybody's going to love certain things about this. But let's just, what else can we do? How else could we look at this? And there's some great opportunity. There's always opportunity in a challenge, and that's what we've got to find. We've got to find the opportunity in the challenge. Not that. Well, there's an opportunity here, and everyone finds the challenges for it. And let's be positive. Let's look forward, and let's look at how we can develop the game. And we've set a really ambitious. We had a major board meeting last weekend. Weekend before. Where the board were all together for 2.5 days and had those conversations about, okay, we're in the foothills of a long journey, climb up a mountain now, but there's some great opportunities ahead. We want to be a high performing national governing body. We want to be focused on our players, so making the decisions based on players. We've said very, very clearly we want our sport to be accessible, safe and inclusive, but hugely enjoyable. And probably the major factor that came out of the board is let's not be a traditional governing body or a traditional business that says, right, we're going to have a load of key performance indicators. People out there they'll probably work for these organizations who say, right, we're going to do 10 of these, 5 of them, 100 of them. And if we don't do that, we change direction in 2 years because it's not working. So let's take a slightly different view of this, and let's take that 10-year longer term ambition and go, okay, so we've said our culture and beliefs are, as an organization, we're going to be high performing, and we're going to be professionalizing the game, and we're going to inspire more people to play and play a part. So we can measure those things. But let's look at, more importantly, how are we going to be progressive? And let's try and think about what progressive is. And parts of what we're doing this year are progressive. They're not all, and I get that, they're not all progressive, but there's some really progressive issues there. Have we been responsive? Well, the season looks like it looks, not because Warren Smart and others said this is how it's going to be. We spoke to the clubs. We got them together. We listened to what their challenges were. We listened to, we didn't give everybody everything they wanted, because that's ridiculous, but we listened to what their challenges were and how could we get around the vast majority of them. So being responsive and listening to their needs is important. Are we being inclusive? Yeah, well, let's look at how we're inclusive. But probably the biggest thing is, are we driven by doing the right things and doing things right? And I think for this year, we've done the right things, and we've done things right for this year. And that's important that we measure that. And now how successful we are, that proof of the pudding will be as the season develops. But is it enjoyable? Well, right now, all I'm getting is people going, I can't wait. So yeah, let's create that. But let's also not be naive and think phew, we've got the season on, let's sit back and let it happen.
Yeah.
And then we'll regroup in October when we've had a couple of, few games and it all looks okay. Because there's massive challenges around the whole thing about, can't play GB games. You can't travel around Europe. You've got a world championship for flag football in December in Jerusalem. Now, the week that was announced a few weeks ago, the following week, there was what we saw on the national headlines. So all of those things are just challenges that we have to look at. So, we've got some great people in our sport who are contributing immensely around a new coaching strategy, working with the referees and officials on an officiating strategy and how we're closer together. We're working really closely with the NFL, the CFL, and it just feels okay. If I'm being brutally honest, have we covered ourselves in glory around the youth football fixtures this year? Hands up, no, we haven't. And I apologise, wholeheartedly that we could have done that a whole heap better, but we've got to where we are. There's still some real challenges where teams are, and for the right reasons, have probably gone, I think we can get a team. I think we can get a team. I think we can fill their fixtures. And then, actually, no, we can't.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And there will be no penalties. There will be no blame for that. But what it's telling me, more importantly, is what do we do now to support our clubs and our teams to be able to be sustainable in the long term? Where are our challenges and weaknesses, and what do we need to do to support them? And this is enabling us to do that. And again, the plea is out there. What support do people need? There's not I think sometimes it's almost well, you're the clubs and the teams, you crack on, you deal with it. And no, we're a sports collective here. And if we're going to professionalize this game in the long term, we have to look at the support to our clubs, support to our teams, support to our coaches, support to our volunteers, to be able to have all the right skills to develop our sport, and then applying all the safeguarding and well-being and inclusion demands that will be made of as a high-performing governing body.
I think I was going to ask you about player development. We were actually speaking to Samuel Oram-Jones. He's a British guy who plays running back at USC, came through the university ranks, played at Durham. He was saying that he loved playing in Britain, he got great support from Durham University, etc. But he also said there's a lot of players who could play at uni level in the US, but obviously in the US, no one knows anything about the British game. I think he actually said he was MVP and scored a touchdown in the national championship game at uni level. But when he was trying to get into college, they were like, well, we don't care. They were more concerned about a 15-year-old playing at high school level. And one thing he said about that was there was not a lot of game tape. And obviously, this is down to finances and level of the teams. Certain teams could provide game tape that they could view, you could use. Other teams didn't take games at all. But I think having people like that, British players playing at USC, is a huge boost for the game.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the big things that came out of the board meeting a couple of weeks ago is that was one of the things we were talking about in this long-term professionalization of the game. Essentially, there's 4 key areas. There's the participation levels. So let's get more people playing at every level from schools right through. There's our people who coach and volunteer and officiate. Let's get more of them. Let's make them better. There's the places we play. We have to get some really strong clubs and make them sustainable and the right facilities. So they're the 3 biggest. But the 4th key factor is we've got to develop players, and we've got to get a player development pathway which is focused on giving the players the best opportunities to excel.
Yeah.
And as you say, straight away, and I totally understand. Div 1, college football in the state, that's got. We've got some phenomenally good university football programs in Britain.
Yeah.
There's some great coaches delivering some very, very strong programs. So that there's an ability for us to drive and develop what we do in university football, which means linking our clubs and our universities closer together. It's making that pathway really well known. There's without doubt now the support we're getting from both the NFL and CFL in terms of the player pathways. We create great athletes and players. What we have to make sure is that everything surrounding that is right to develop them. Are we there right now? No, of course we're not. But that's the whole point about having a 10-year long-term vision to develop this. And big parts of that is making what we do focused on the ability to develop the player, not, oh, we've got a great club and we've got some good players and we'll look after, we'll keep them. Well, what's the bigger picture? What is that big picture that US colleges go, you know what, British players, they're people we should be looking at.
And what's crazy,
not what we're getting, not what we're providing.
Look, about 4 years at university. Like, he didn't play anything before uni. I think he played 3-4 years at uni, and that his talent level was at that level already. He could go to USC and just become the starting running back for him.
Yeah, and I think that's the understanding of our sport. Again, I'm not a coach or an elite coach within American football, but I've worked in many other sports developing elite sport programs. The principles are the same. What we have to understand is we're probably a late developing sport.
Yeah,
you've just hit the nail on the head there. Didn't play to university, but then after 4 years, bingo. So if we are a late developing sport, let's focus in our early years on just getting all the fundamentals right, that we've got agility, balance, coordination, speed, some skill levels, real high level skill levels, and we develop that. Rather than trying to replicate the adult game, but under 14s, 15s. Let's just understand that what do they need to be able to do at 19, 20, and let's ensure that we can develop that. Now, that's one of the things that I'm really going to be looking at as once I see some football and going out and seeing some football and seeing what we're doing and what our clubs are doing. And some of our clubs are doing some fantastic stuff, but let's make it about developing the players. Not about coaches winning trophies at under 14 and 15 and 16. The greatest respect. It's nice and I get it and people want to win. But what's the long-term game for British American football in doing that? And so that's the key factors that I think that's this whole thing about professionalizing our game. I don't mean just paying players. I mean professionalizing everything about our game, our coaching, our structures, our developing our players. And again, you said there, Tim, very much about having a really closely defined player development pathway. So what do we need a 16-year-old to be doing? What do we need a 17-year-old to be able to do? What do we need them to do before they go to university? And that's about, and then there's a whole heap of transferable skills from other sports that can drop in at 17, 18, 19, probably having never played the sport before, might have seen it. Okay, so what do we now need to do with those individuals to get them
to that level,
to where they need to be? So again, I always start to get quite excited when I talk about this. But that's the beauty of this sport. We've got massive potential, massive opportunity. Let's not look too narrow in our thought process.
And kind of finally, you mentioned kind of the long-term plan quite a bit. With the European League of Football kicking off last weekend, they announced that they'd be hoping to get a London team in next year. And there's obviously like the Scottish Claymores and obviously other potential there. With all these professional leagues like the ELF and the UKFL starting up, where exactly does BAFA fit in with that? And does the goal kind of get influenced by them at all?
I think it does. And I think it would be ridiculous not to look at all of these potential developments, the opportunities that are out there. And I come back all the time. We're a national governing body. We don't run leagues.
Yeah.
Our job is to create the structure in our sport to ensure that our sport's successful and is successful in long term. So it's about, okay, so what do we create for our sport in competitive terms, in coaching terms, in playing terms, in participation terms, that enables ultimately long-term success? And, one of those things is to look at, all these opportunities. We've made it really clear we want to professionalize our game in the long term. Now, I suspect within the next couple of months or so, here's the heads up. I suspect somewhere around the London Games, we'll be announcing externally, these are the big key factors of our long-term strategy. So that seems we'll be ready to announce that then. And there'll be some big key factors in there. What do we want in 5 years' time, 10 years' time? And those are then key milestones that, guess what, we can be measured by ultimately. And if people say you've not done it, well, so be it. Someone will knock on my door and move me on if I've not done what I've said I'm going to do. But the important thing is to create what the right sustainable opportunities are, and what is right for the players and what is right for our sport. And there'll be, as you say right now, there's a couple of clear, obvious areas that are coming to fruition. I've not had any conversations with European League, but I'm like you, I follow it intensely and see what they're doing. And I guess what we've got to look at is, what's the long-term sustainability of that? What's the, some very clear, strong messages coming from Brett Gosper and the NFL about what they want to do in Europe.
Yeah.
And we work closely with them. So what does that look like? And how do we marry all this up? Because ultimately my job is to do what is the best thing for British American football and its players. And that's what we have to do. And we have to make sure that the partners we work with, the stakeholders we engage with, we're all aligned to create the same opportunities and the same long-term goals that we want to achieve. So we want to work with people who want to do what we want to do.
I'll tell you what, you do make it easy to root for, you guys. I wish you nothing but success with all of that.
Okay.
But yeah, congrats on you and all your teams and all your volunteers and all the hard work. Wish you nothing but the best of luck for the upcoming games.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we look forward to seeing all the results and all the games happening.
Yeah, we've got a nice new website. We've got a nice new get all the games on, and it's just going to be nice just want to see some football, okay, guys.
Yeah.
I suspect that 2:00 first scrimmage, that first kick, that's going to be a whole explosion of energy all around the country while that happens. And I wish everybody the best of luck on Sunday, and I'll be taking a game in probably fairly local to me, but I'll be being safe, wearing my mask, trying not to add to the levels of participants on the pitch. But and let's just hope that we have a hugely successful season, and I'm really looking forward to it. And thanks to you guys for your support. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
No, we love it. We'll leave links for all of the BAFA stuff below. Make sure you check them out. You can also head over, find it all on our Facebook, website, social medias. Just Google That American Football Show. You'll find us. Pete, thank you again for coming on. Really do appreciate it. Hopefully we get to speak to you again after the season and kind of have a recap there. Thanks to everyone for listening. Make sure you head over and check out our friends at EP Sports, and we'll talk to you all next week.